Internal documents show BC Hydro officials have had concerns since at least 2009 that earthquakes triggered by fracking are a potential risk to its Peace River dams. The electricity-generating dams in northeastern BC include one of the largest earth dams in the world, the WAC Bennett Dam, as well as the smaller Peace Canyon Dam, and the 9 billion Site C Dam, which is under construction. The Crown Agency has not discussed the issue publicly. But as a result of its concerns, BC Hydro worked out an agreement, possibly as early as 2014 with the BC Oil and Gas Commission, (POG), to create 5-kilometer buffer zones around dams where no new fracking and drilling rights are issued, according to a report released today from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, a left-wing think tank. There is no ban on fracking or drilling for companies that hold existing rights, but BC Hydro says it will work with the POG, responsible for development and regulation of the natural gas sector, to effectively manage any risk, according to the report. This is the minimum that should be done, said report author Ben Parfitt, a resource analyst for the Centre for Policy Alternatives. If the dam were ever to fail, it would be absolutely catastrophic, said Parfitt. Hudson's Hope, a community of about 1,000, and several other smaller communities, are downstream of the Peace Canyon Dam. In a written response to questions from the Vancouver Sun, BC Hydro Deputy CEO Chris O'Reilly said as far as the agency knows there has never been any fracking within 5 kilometers of its northeast BC dams. Gas rights are held within the buffer of the Peace Canyon Dam in the Site C location. O'Reilly called the buffer put in place by the POG a precautionary measure. That said, our dams are built to withstand much larger ground motions associated with higher magnitude events that are much longer in duration than fracking, said O'Reilly. In fact, our dams can withstand events many times larger than those associated with fracking. Fracking by itself cannot generate large magnitude earthquakes, he said. Fracking does have the potential to increase natural seepage from these dams which, however, is an issue of increased cost, not dam safety, said O'Reilly. The concerns over fracking triggered earthquakes are outlined in emails and letters obtained by the Centre for Policy Alternatives, between BC Hydro officials and also with provincial agencies such as the Ministry of Natural Gas Development, the Ministry of Environment and the POG, through a Freedom of Information request and provided to the Vancouver Sun. The Centre for Policy Alternatives says it is particularly concerned there has been no public discussion of the risk posed by fracking-triggered earthquakes to the Peace dams and believes a stronger response is needed. That includes creating regulations to make the 5-kilometer buffer zones mandatory and extending the buffers to reservoirs. The Centre for Policy Alternatives also advocates creating zones for areas farther than 5 kilometers from dams to consider whether fracking will take place. The buffer zones and assessment should be overseen by an independent agency such as the Ministry of Environment and not the POG, said Parfitt, the author of the report. The report also notes that fracking-induced earthquakes take place closer to the surface than natural earthquakes, which could be a concern for dams and other structures. The largest fracking-induced earthquake, recorded in August 2015 near Fort St. John, was 4.6 in magnitude. That magnitude is great enough to move dishes and windows, create cracking sounds in walls and feels like a heavy truck striking a building, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. In 2009, in a letter to the BC Controller of Water Rights, Ray Stewart, then Hydro's Director of Dam Safety, raised concerns about fracking in coal bed methane seams near Hudson's Hope and adjacent to the Peace Canyon Dam. Potential effects included induced seismicity that may be greater than the original design criteria of the dam, said Stewart. Production from coal bed methane never materialized, but in 2012, the concern was raised again, this time over fracking to release gas from rock deep below the surface. Fracking, or hydraulic fracturing, uses water and chemicals injected below the surface under high pressure to crack rocks to release natural gas. In a March 17, 2013 email, BC Hydro Peace Area Dam Safety Engineer Scott Gillis suggested to BC Hydro's Chief Scientist Dam Safety Desmond Hartford that the Crown Agency simply create the buffer zones around any extreme and high consequence dams.